How are we doing this evening? Chance for you to see my glorious face and all its ambience rather. Try to sound intelligent there and just ended up looking like a dick. All right, I'm going to share this as per normal into a few places. This is the second development talk, one of three. Subject today will be difference between a main contractor and trades, and also the stages of a build. So a bit of a big one. So I hope you're sat down and you're taking notes. I had to break up the last one into a few segments on the podcast as well because it was that long. Something that I'll be doing again today. I think that's shared everywhere. One more place actually. Right, and I think we're good to go now. Hello and welcome to your Wednesday dose of wealth wisdom with me, Daniel Kennedy, your host, Wealth Dragon Coach and KML CEO. I'll never get used to saying that, although it does make me feel good. Right, today's topic is what to look for in a main contractor or project managing trades, followed by stages of a build. So first of all, let's establish the difference between a main contractor and a trade. And this is for primarily low-level development. You're not going to be using contractors. You're not going to be using trades directly on big projects. Of course, you're going to use a main contractor and they're going to use subbies. So this is primarily for your deals that are your refurbs that are under 100K, maybe 200K if you're pushing it. But that's probably too much. So if you're getting into this, you're starting to do some refurbs, you've watched the previous video, so you know all the work that needs to go in prior to you getting the first tool picked up on site. Now you're deciding to pick your builders. And main contractor is somebody who will come to your job, they'll quote, and that will usually be, they're the carpenters of the team, and they'll have their own team. Or they might be the bricklayer, dependent. It's very rarely like you'll get the ground worker or you get the sparky that'll be the sort of head honcho. It's normally the carpenter or the bricklayer, I've found in my experience. And they will come and they'll quote the job, and they will take care of having the plumber, the electrician, like all the trades of the job. They will see it through from beginning to end, and you'll pay for that service. And very often, what I've found as well is they're really, really good tradesmen. They do the work fairly well, but the admin side tends to slip away from main contractors if they're somebody who was working and has come up and decided to set up his own team. So when I'm looking at a main contractor, what I want to see, if I've decided to go that route, is what jobs they've done previously, whether they're open to being like flexible or creative as opposed to being very stuck in their way. So will they be willing to try new things, as in like render houses in certain ways, maybe put in a fancy bathroom as opposed to having your really generic stoic builders that are quite difficult to work with because they want it done their way. You're going to want to look at how many people he's subbing work out to, how many people he has on the books, and also if he does more than one job. Now, my advice to you, if you're going to pick a main contractor, and the fantastic thing that I love hearing is I can't book you in until, because that tells me a couple of things. That tells me he's in demand, so he's good. All good builders will have work booked up. Every single builder will have work, good builder will have work booked up, a main contractor, because being a good team that gets projects finished and gets projects to the market, not many people, like quite a lot of jobs will just fall by the wayside. Somebody will take a pull off a job and they'll run off that. There's a lot of that. So if your builder is telling you you can't start till when, that is a good thing. That's not a bad thing. If you haven't planned it correctly and suddenly you've got all your ducks in a row and you're ready for work to start, and then you need to find a builder, that's your problem. That's not the builder's fault. And if you have to wait, I would recommend waiting for the one that you want. And when you're trying to find a builder, main contractor, I wouldn't focus on price. I would find the right builder and pay him what he wants. I wouldn't try and chip him down on price, be really, really cutthroat. I would look for the right builder and just pay him what he wants. Because every single time I've gone thinking of cash only, it's bit me in the arse every single time. And there's no industry truer where the saying comes to enforce. If you pay cheap, you pay twice. And you really do, whether it's materials, whether it's having the trades directly work for yourself. If you go for the price and that's the thing that you focus on, and you ignore all the other hints and tips and normally screaming warning signs, red flags, because when you look back at it and you're not focused on money, that tends to be something that you overlook because you want to really focus on the price and you're thinking, yeah, I'm going to get this 10-bed HMO done for 12 grand. I'm going to be a bloody millionaire. Whoop, whoop. And in reality, the 120K contract job that was given by somebody who might not be as good as sales, but is just really confident in their craft, that's the person you should have gone with, even if it's a little bit more expensive than you first envisaged. So you want to look at their previous jobs. You want to make sure they're only going to be working on your job and not any other jobs, because you don't want a trade that's working on multiple ones. You want to make sure that they've got a couple of people on the books and it's not just a project manager that's subbing out all the work, because that means if they're a project manager subbing out the work, he's probably going to get a main contractor anyway or tradesman. And then there's a premium on top of that. So for these first jobs, I would implore you to be really heavily involved, as opposed to having somebody project manage it and you not getting involved, because you're going to be able to learn things. So now we're going to move on to trade. So a main contractor is somebody who will be your direct point of contact. So say if something goes wrong, you won't tell the carpenter to sort it out. You'll tell the main guy, the head honcho, and then he'll go and tell the carpenter. So there's a bit of a chain of command. Now we're going to work on to if you're deciding to manage the trades yourself. So initially, because I was absolutely clueless, I went for a main contractor. And I found myself being let down because things weren't going as well as I thought. And because if you fall out with the main contractor, the job immediately stops, because if you're not paying them or you're not happy, what tends to happen is the whole team will leave as opposed to one or two. So if you're managing the trades, they will work for you directly. So they're not really interlinked. And the pros of this, if you're not happy with a tradesman, you can swap him out for somebody else mid-job and it won't delay the job too much, because you're going to have multiple people working and they're all answerable to you. And it's sort of like they're not all interlinked. So if one breaks, the rest can take up the slack, and then you can wait till you get a new electrician or a new plumber or a new labourer, whatever the case may be. But with trades, you will have to be on site every single day. You cannot leave them to it, because you are the head honcho. They will be looking for somebody to tell them what to do, what materials to buy, who do they go to when there's an issue. They need a decision maker on site. So unless you're prepared to have a really long, drawn out project, don't go for trades initially, because you're going to be in a full-time job. If these are the first couple of deals, you're not going to be able to manage the trades day by day by day. How do you know if they're turning up at 7 o'clock and leaving at 5, or however many hours you contracted them to? How are you going to? If you're within the local area, I still wouldn't manage trades, because it's going to be a really long refurb unless you're there every day, able to say, right, I'll go and get these materials, you get those materials, let's get this sorted. And you need to have a basic knowledge. So now, stages of a build. you wouldn't really necessarily be too concerned on a main contractor with this, because they're going to take care of that for you. And you're just going to want to make sure that, say there's a 12-week job, you're going to make sure there's weekly payments and then it's tied into work. But next week, we're going to discuss how to set up payment schedules for a builder, and what is good, what is bad, what to be expected, why you don't pay an absolute penny before the first tool is picked up to the builder. Anybody who demands that, don't work with them. There'll be plenty of people who you won't need to pay. Everyone else, everywhere in the whole entire economy, gets paid after the work's done. So don't pay before. That's just a little warning there. So you've got your project, you've got your trades. So what you're going to need a couple of trades. You're going to need a plumber, a gas-safe plumber, preferably. You're going to need an electrician. You're going to need a carpenter for sure. You're going to need a plasterer, and then you're going to need a painter and decorator. But normally, the carpenter, the plumber, and the plasterer can jump on painting and decorating. If a team presents itself and they don't have all those trades within it, it's fine. It's not essential. The first stage, before any build, what you need to do before the strip out, and I'm assuming that you're going back to brick. So I'm assuming that you are taking all the plaster off, all the woodwork, everything, a full refurb. You want your electrician, your sparky, to go in there and turn the electrics off. And what they'll do is I don't know what it's called, but they'll have this like little wooden, as if I'm going to show you just my face there in between it, but they'll have this like little wooden plank, and they'll have a few plugs on it. And they'll turn off the electrics because you're going to rewire. I'm assuming that you're going back to brick. And that means the trades can plug into that and use their tools. I'm sure there's a name for it, but forgive me, I don't know. Then the strip off begins. And what's going to happen there? You need to be on site if you're managing the trades to get the skips, because they're going to be filled up really quickly. They're going to take off all the plaster, all the flooring, get rid of all the door frames if you're doing HMO, everything. This normally takes about a week. Then what happens is you do your structural work. So any lintels that need replacing, any extensions that need building, any groundworks, this is the stage that you would do it at before you do anything else. So you do strip out, do your structural works. So this might be putting in windows, this might be replacing, whatever the case may be. You've done all your structural works, fantastic. Then you do first fix carpentry and first fix plumbing. Those can happen at the same time. So you're going to need to have your plumber and your carpenter on. Potentially you could have the plasterer in just to help in labor. Normally that would happen. They would have their own laborer anyway, or it would be another trade helping them out. So you do your first fix carpentry and your first fix plumbing. What do I mean by first fix for those of you who have never done a refurb before? So first fix is, you know, when you've got a wall, before it's been plastered and boarded, you'd have the wooden frame. You may have seen it on certain building programs or a construction site where it looks like it's a skeleton of a house and it's got wooden joists. You could have possibly saw it on those homes under the hammer. It's basically a skeleton of a building, and it will be the drainage for the plumbing. So the plumbing will lay the soil pipes using the correct angle. So there's gravity fed system, and they'll do normally sometimes cut through the joists and have to do all the really, really messy stuff. Carpentry will put up all the stud walls, put in the door frames, lay the floorboards down, get rid of any creaks. If the stairs need repairing, put those on. And that's the first fix carpentry. Then you move on then you do the first fix electrics. This is where your electrician will come in, they'll put in a new fuse board, they'll put in the new, they'll run all the wires, so they'll chase the wires into the wall. So this is why you want to have your carpentry done first, because you don't want the electrician to come and do multiple visits because they're quite expensive. You want them done in a synchronized manner so they can get out the way. Your electrician will have free reign in the house, and normally we get it done in a weekend. When the first fix plumbing and the first fix carpentry is done, it just gets smashed in the weekend, so they're not in each other's way. And they'll run wires to every plug, every light bulb, every appliance the whole house. Every new wire is going to be chased into the wall, or it'll be into the stud walls. With your plumbing as well, with your first fix plumbing, do not put your pipes in the floor. Do not put your pipes in the floor and then concrete over them. Put them in the wall, because there's going to be differences between copper and push fit, and the chances are your plumber's going to use push fit if it's an HMO, because there's going to be absolutely meters and meters and meters of the stuff, and he won't be asked to do copper. The prices, they tend to work out the same. but it's just easier for the plumber to use push fit. And you don't want to put those in the floor. You want them in the walls where they're easily accessible, because if you put them in the floor under tiles or in the ceiling, you're going to have to pull quite a lot down. It's going to be a really messy job. If you can, get them in the walls, and there'll be plenty of space for you to do that. Excuse me. Because they are going to leak. You're going to get lots of leaks in a HMO. If you're putting 8 bathrooms in a building, that means 8 bathrooms that need servicing, 8 bathrooms that have potential leaks. Stuff goes wrong. It's just the nature of the business. So whatever you do, when you can, put the pipes in the wall so they're easily accessible. Okay, now you've done your first fix plumbing, your first fix electrics. What you want to move on to is boarding. It's not called first fix plastering. I've never heard of that. It's normally called boarding or fixing. And that's where they put the plasterboard up and they put that bloody tape in between the joints. And then they'll do the whole house normally, or the whole room, whatever the case may be. At that stage, you want to be having your plasterer in. Normally, it'll be the plasterer that will board and plaster, but typically there'll be loads of people helping out doing the boarding. Then you do your plastering, and normally at plastering, you do the whole house and then you leave it for like a week or so. Just leave it to dry because it takes forever. You can do it in stages if you're really, really smart and do it by room. So you do this on a smaller level. So in room 1, maybe the electrics are getting done, while room 2, it's being boarded and plastered. And so it sort of like works as a conveyor belt. And normally people will start at the top of the house and work their way down. So then all the mess comes down and they can shut off each floor as they go, which is a pretty good way of doing it. So after plastering, you want your second fix carpentry. What is second fix carpentry? That's when you put your kitchen in. That's when you put your cupboards, the doors, you put the door dressings on. And what do I mean by door dressings? I mean the handles, the locks, the smoke strips, the door closers, and your skirting board, your architrave, and then you do your your second fix plumbing, and that's where you put your sinks, your shower trays, your splashback boards, your toilets, everything in. That's when you do that as well. So you do those together. So the carpenter and the plumber work really close together. And normally your plumber will jump onto the carpenter's job because typically he'll need to wait for the carpenter to be done before he can do his works in the kitchen, perhaps. So he might be helping him around with the worktops or the cupboards and whatnot. And same for the plumber. The carpenter will jump on to the plumber's job after he's done all his stuff because he's then ready and waiting. 2 bits of things here. If it's your own house, I would recommend you put the skirting before you put the flooring down. And then they don't look nice, but then you get those sort of like trims that you put over your flooring, because in a HMO, your floors aren't going to get looked after. They're just not. And stuff might go wrong. You might need to pull the floors up and change them and so on. And it's a lot easier if you put your skirting on first, and then you put your laminate down or your carpet and your grippers, and then you put the trim over, because that means you don't have to pull up the skirting to change the floors. And it's sort of like a long-term cost thing. The tenants aren't going to mind. You will probably mind if you're doing it because you wouldn't want it in your house, but they're probably not going to notice. So your second fix plumbing and carpentry has been done. So that's all the siliconing and the showers, the taps and whatnot. Normally this is where the boiler would go in as well. They would pressure test the system, fix the leaks at this stage. They'd pressure test the system after they've done the first fix, because they'd have all the speed fit pipes everywhere. Everything would be exposed, and normally there'd be caps on certain things, and then they'd just attach the taps to the pipes at the end. Then after you've done your second fix carpentry and plumbing, you do all this happens concurrently. Now you do your painting, so that's your glossing of all your wood, your painting of the walls, painting of all the architrave, the skirting. You do your tiling at this stage, so tiling behind the sink. Don't put tiles in your showers, just use splashback boards. They're so much more easier for maintenance in terms of tenancies, and they look fantastic. You might pay a bit more, but it's fine. You'll save that on labor because of how easy it is to fit. You fit your boiler, and then that's pretty much your job done. So once you've done your tiling, your painting, and you're making good, so what's going to happen through the duration of your build, and sometimes frustrating, is builders are going to break things as they work. It's just how it works. So, for instance, they might be working in the bathroom, and they might drop a tool, or the hammer might, I don't know. Every job, there's always snagging to do. So at the end, you do snagging, and you go around the house with a notepad, and you be meticulous. You test every lock, every closed door. You open and close it. You make sure when you let it go, the door closer doesn't slam, and you get them to adjust that. Turn every tap on, turn every shower on, flush every toilet, look for leaks, look at all the walls, make sure that there's no cracks. Scuffs are not too bad because you can sort them at a later date, and it's gonna get scuffed anyway when we're HMO, as long as it's not really, really prominent. Don't be absolutely like with a magnifying glass. Oh, excuse me. But with your electrics, your plumbing, your taps, open every kitchen door, open and close every door, test every light switch, get this plug where you can make sure power's going to every plug, test the TV aerial, just test everything, because you're going to give this list to your trades and they're going to work their way through it. And then that is pretty much how you would manage a job from start to finish. And the issue that can arise is when people get the order wrong, and the trades, what I found as well, will blame each other when that happens. So say you book in your electrician for your second fix, but the plastering isn't done, you're still going to have to pay your electrician, even though he can't do his first fix plastering. You wouldn't want him to do his first fix electrics before the plaster, because that means your plugs are going on the walls before it's being plastered. So when the actual plaster goes on the wall and it's already been second fixed electrics, it's going to be normally standing proud of the wall, and it's not going to look very good. So make sure you get the order right. And this isn't something that you want to do first. You want to go to a main contractor first if you're going to do this, because it can be quite daunting and stressful if you're in a full-time job and you're having to manage trades. That isn't something I would recommend that you do. I'd recommend you go for a main contractor. So quite a lot there to take in. You're probably going to have to watch the video a few times with a notebook and pen, and then write all the stages down. I'm going to give you my notes so you can pause it. Boom. Yeah, I recycle. So you can pause that and write it down for the stages. You're probably going to do it on fixed price work for the trades. So they're going to charge you so much for the kitchen, so much for the doors, and so on. What you want to do before the work starts is get them all together, have them chat, say to the electrician what pisses you off about sparkies and carpenters that you don't like them to do. Say to the sparky what pisses you off about the plumber, an electrician. Say to the bricklayer what pisses you off about the carpentry or boarding, whatever. So it's all out in the air. Everyone knows what everyone likes, and any issues, they work as a team as opposed to working against each other. Because what I've found as well, like the plumber will be putting in his pipes and sometimes cut the wire and not say anything. And you don't want to create a culture of that, because it can breed resentment. And it's really, really difficult. Once you've got a bad culture, it's really difficult to get rid of it. If you've got any questions on any of this, because I know it's quite a lot, I know a few of you are watching, so thanks for joining us. On any of the stages, or any questions about how to find trades, do let us know. So where are you going to find your main contractor and your trades, and what do you need to look for? I've already spoke about main contractors. Now I'm going to speak about trades. Most tradesmen will be the good ones I haven't had to look for online. They've been recommended to me by people. So just ask around people who've been used before. So for your electrician, for your plasterer, all the trades, and you'll have quite a lot of people. The economy is quite flush with trades, so you're not going to find yourself in dire need of them. You're going to get lots of people, contact details, and then what's going to happen is you're going to meet up with them, and about 70% won't turn up. So if you were to arrange for 10 electricians, 7 of them won't even turn up. So great, it's a really good filter. You don't want to work with those people. Chances are they've got too much work, they're not able to manage their time right, and they're probably juggling too many plates. Then you want to ask them if they've worked in a team before, if they're self-employed, what tools do they have, because a lot of people will present themselves as an electrician or a plumber, and they might not have any of the tools. And then once you get them on site and you've decided to pick them, they'll turn up in a car, and you don't. That's like, you're like, "Where's your van?" "No, I don't have a van here." It's just like, oh, that's not too great. Or they might not have the whole sort of tools of the trade, meaning some of the jobs they'll need to borrow tools from the builder, and that's happened before, which can be also frustrating. So make sure you ask them the question: have you got all the tools? Am I going to need to hire anything, or have you got it all? Ask them about their previous work, speak to past customers, and also put their name in Google. Whoever you work with, put their name in Google, see what company they're involved with, if they've got their own company, and put that in company's house. Make sure that this person's got good reviews, because bad customers will be so loud. It'll be all over the internet if they're absolute idiots, and it won't be difficult to find. And that's really all you need to do about trades, is look at previous work, chat to previous customers, put their name in Google, and make sure they've got their own equipment. And also, with trades, talk about the payment schedule early on. You don't want to be into the job where their expectation of being paid no matter what is different to yours. You've just got to be really, really, really clear from the get-go, because there's nothing that pisses off a tradesman more than not being paid or leaving the site thinking that he's been done over. So have the payment schedule worked out to complete and utter detail, so there's no room for flexibility or discretion on either side. Yeah, and that's all I've got to say about managing trades and the stages of a build or a refurb, and what to look for. In summary, main contractor for your first couple of deals, because you're going to be in a full-time job. And then when you transition to full-time property and you're able to sustain yourself and be on site every day, start managing the trade. You're less exposed, you're less open to the job stalling completely, because chances are you've got bridging, you've got finance costs, so you want it done quickly. And then also, if you fall out with trades, you can replace them fairly quickly. Excuse me. And also, it'll be a lot cheaper if you manage the trade, because main contractor, they're going to put profit onto everything. If they sub out the work and it costs you $5,000, normally they'll charge you $6,000. Where the trades, you're getting the quotes directly. I've found it's considerably cheaper doing the trades. But then also it involves a lot more work. It involves you getting the materials. It involves you making sure all the site visits are done by the building regs. Make sure that you are doing all the documentation and gathering all the certificates, whereas your main contractor would do that. Right, and that is me for today. Thank you for joining me. Hope you got a lot out of that. This will be really, really boring if you're not involved in it. But if you're getting involved and wanting to get involved in refurbs, it's key. You can't overlook it. You need to know the stages of your build, because otherwise in 6 months' time, when you still haven't done your refurb, wondering why everyone is hating each other on site, it's a horrible culture. It's because you haven't planned it out, right? You haven't planned the days of snagging, strip out, structural work, first fix, second fix, plastering, painting, whatever, and make sure you have the stages correctly. Because the ramifications of not getting it right are really, really, really dire. And it costs you money, and you're not doing this for charity. You're doing this to make money. Of course you are. That's why we're all here. We're not doing it because we like each other. The only reason we talk to each other is to try and learn and expand, and we all grow together, because it just seems to work. Right, thank you, and I hope you enjoyed that. If you want to know more about how we do developments and how we've able to scale up to a multi-million-pound portfolio with multiple HMO ensuite units, you can join us on the development tour, or alternatively, you can go to our website or go to my page and see what we do day to day.